Let's move into post for a moment and take a look at how to turn your series of images into an HDR image. While there are dedicated packages that offer a great deal of control, Photoshop has a solid tool built in, so that's what we'll look at here. First, look through the images and eliminate any that seem too similar to be much use. You want about 5 or 6 final images representing the full range of light in your scene. In Photoshop, choose File, Automate, Merge to HDR Pro. Browse to the folder with your images, select them, click Open. Leave Attempt to automatically align source images checked so that Photoshop can adjust for any shake that may have misaligned the scene between shots. Then click OK. Photoshop proceeds to stitch all the images together into a single image. When it's done, you'll be greeted with a range of sliders for tweaking the image exposure and color. Good news is, we can ignore all of this. Change the mode pop-up to 32-bit and all the options disappear. Deselect the Adobe Camera Roll option. We want the resulting image to be a 32-bit float image, which means, for one thing, that we don't need to bake in specific exposure and color settings. That's why Photoshop just hid them. Float images give us the greater dynamic range we need to hold all that HDR goodness. Click OK, and your HDR image is created. First thing you'll want to do is save the image as an EXR. That's an industry-standard file format for HDR images, and it'll keep all that extra information we got from the multiple exposure shoot. The final step is to use the black, white, and gray cards to neutralize the exposure and color cast of the shot. Choose Image, Adjustments, Levels. First, in Options, set the algorithm to Adjust per Channel Contrast. This will allow us to eliminate the color bias in the shot. We also want our black and white points to be set at exactly 0 and 1 in the linear color scale, so zero out the clipping headroom values. Leaving headrooms important for regular images, but not float images like ours. Now sample the white point, the mid-gray point, and the black point in that order using the eyedropper tools. By the way, you should right-click and be sure to sample an average of, say, 5 pixels by 5 pixels to avoid errors from noise or film grain. Our sample area was already set to that when we started. When you're done, click OK. You should now have a nice, linear, even-toned image. You can confirm this by looking at the info panel as you hover your mouse over the image. The white should be near 255 in Photoshop's 8-bit measure mode, and the black's close to 0. Finally, crop the image to a nice square with the sphere perfectly framed from side to side. Remember, you can hold down the space bar while dragging a marquee to reposition the upper left corner of the selection. Congratulations, you now have a mirrored sphere light probe for use in your favorite 3D package. We'll look at just how to use it in a later series. To confirm that your dynamic range is intact, temporarily add a levels filter. Drag the output level white point down. You should see all the subtle detail in the sky revealed as the image gets darker. This is something you'd never see in an image with a standard dynamic range. Cancel out of the levels adjustment. We only applied it for testing. And then save your cropped sphere.